No one should say we don't. Everyone's
All right, so living world, it's green.
That sounds pretty.
All right, so abiotic, hopefully by now you know that means non-living. That's the non-living portion of the environment. So the atmosphere, the water, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, that's all abiotic. Biotic is everything living, so animals, plants, fungi, all that stuff. Biogeochemical cycles, we're going to go through these quickly because you should know. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and water cycles. So those are the main ones you need to know. Law of conservation of matter changes form, but it can't be created or destroyed. So the water cycle. Water in the atmosphere is in a gaseous state, and that's also a greenhouse gas. So, but it's not like poisonous or anything, it's actually good. Precipitation occurs when water is dense enough in the atmosphere to come out of the atmosphere and into the ground as a liquid or solid, or sometimes gas. Like not here so much. If you go a little west and a little north and other places around the world, when it's cooler, you get fog in the morning sometimes in the evening, and that would be precipitation in a gaseous form.
Mr. Stackhouse.
Yeah.
Fog and mist are basically the same thing.
Yeah. Groundwater is water that sinks underground. Technically, mist comes from the movement of water. So when water moves, it turns into mist.
Right.
Runoff is water that floats across grounds into lakes and streams, and water cycles through living things. Also, we urinate it out. It's a water cycle inside us. Evaporation is water enters the atmosphere again from animals or from the ground. Transpiration is a specific kind of evaporation from the leaves of green plants. And the water cycle is also called the hydrologic cycle. So there's a picture, just a general picture. This you should know. This you guys learned in like 7th grade. All right, carbon cycle. Respiration. Carbon is given off as a byproduct of animal and plant respiration into the environment. It's very likely that they're going to ask a carbon cycle and a global warming question in one because they relate very similarly. If you have an excess of carbon cycle, you can have more of a greenhouse effect going on because you're making more carbon dioxide. So photosynthesis, plants take in carbon. Plants are eaten by animals, they die and decay, the carbon is returned to the environment. Also, carbon gets trapped for many years and creates fossil fuels, so that's how you can relate it to, that's how you can relate it to oil, coal. Now you can relate the carbon cycle to the energy section. And when fossil fuels are burned through combustion, carbon is released back into the environment. Usually it's carbon dioxide.
Stackhouse.
Yep.
Most of the plants that produce useful photosynthesis are algae, right?
Yeah, that's an important thing.
Thank you.
Actually, an important point. Most of the photosynthesis that happens around the world is important. Most photosynthesis occurs because of photosynthetic zooplankton or algae, the green stuff in the oceans, sitting on top of the ocean. That's where most of the photosynthesis occurs, not in the Brazilian rainforest. So most happens in the ocean. So nitrogen cycle, this one you just got to memorize, it's hard. Maybe you can make a weird mnemonic out of it. 78%, this is an important thing, 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. A lot of people think it's oxygen because we need the oxygen or carbon dioxide, but most of the air is nitrogen. Only 21% is oxygen. So nitrogen is the most abundant element in the atmosphere. Too much nitrogen causes eutrophication. Yeah. All right, here's nitrogen cycle. Just memorize it. Nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification, and nitrification. You just got to read that and kind of remember it. Here's a picture. I doubt they're going to ask an essay question on this. but they will probably, will almost definitely have a couple multiple choice questions on them.
Mr. Stackhouse,
Yes.
just before quickly, if, I mean, just in the rare case, if the nitrogen cycle is applied to a free response question, what would be a real life example that we could?
Eutrophication, too much fertilizer, getting into the groundwater and changing or increasing the amount of green plants that grow on the water. And when they die, it takes the oxygen, bacteria that eat or decompose the green plants, and they, after they die, eat up all the oxygen in the water, so it makes it a hypoxic zone. That would be what they're asking.
Oh.
So phosphorus cycle, this is really the only thing they're going to ask about this is that it never turns into a gas. So that's the main, only important thing. It's used as part of fertilizer, but the main thing is that phosphorus cycle, it never cycles into the atmosphere, it never turns into a gas. It's also part of eutrophication. So there's a picture. Never goes into as a gas, that's the important thing. Food chain and food webs. So autotrophs basically are plants that make their own food. Producers, chemotrophs are specialized producers that are around hydrothermal vents. So it's a special kind of. Yeah.
So they don't really need this sunlight, the energy of the sun at all?
Most producers or autotrophs do, but there are some that use the chemicals deep in the ocean that get no sunlight. Or in caves and places they get, and that's only like 5%.
So even without the sun, they would thrive?
Yeah. Because it's, all energy is basically trapped sunlight. And it basically is another form of energy. It goes from one form to another.
Right.
All right, so net primary productivity is gross minus your taxes. So net is, if you think of your paycheck, net is how much you actually get put into your bank account or put into your hand. Gross is how much you actually earn, and then plant respiration is the taxes they take out. So basically, what I mean by that is, this is how much energy you can use, this is how much energy you actually make, or the plants actually make, and then the plants have to use some of that energy to live and to grow and to reproduce. Once you take out that energy that it has to use to maintain itself, then you get your net primary productivity. So if that's the formula. And it's the same as a paycheck. Net is how much you get paid after they take out your taxes. Gross is the total amount before the taxes. And then respiration is the taxes.
Right, and if we want to talk about the specifics on net primary productivity, trophic level from one to the other, 90% is lost, right?
Yes, that's always true. 90% of energy is lost from one trophic level to the next, and it's almost always lost as heat. If you ever see heat as an answer, choose heat. It's always going to be heat. All right, consumers. There's primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. Specific kinds are detritivores. They get their energy from consuming non-living organic matter, such as dead animals or fallen leaves. Decomposers are bacteria, fungi that absorb energy from non-living organic matter. So decomposers are what decompose things. This is bacteria, for the most part. Detritivores are things like crabs or vultures. Raccoons can be detritivores. Anything that eats a dead thing lying on the side of the road, that's a detritivore. Omnivore eats everything. We're omnivores. Pigs are omnivores. Bears are omnivores.
Vultures would be
Vultures, yeah.
Vultures are detritivores.
Yeah. So, would it really call them carnivores?
Yeah, it's vultures specifically are a type of carnivore. Yeah, this is a type of carnivore.
Okay.
Which is a kind of
right.
But no, they can also eat dead plants.
So they're omnivores.
If it's just eating dead things, it's detritivores.
Right.
All right, food chains. All energy starts with the sun for the most part, unless you're at a hydrothermal vent. Those are the chemotrophs. In reality, food chains are tangled and they make food webs. So that's an example of a food chain. Only about 10% of the energy transfers from one level to the next, and 90% is used up for respiration, digestion, other activities, and mostly heat loss. So food chains are measured by energy pyramids. There's three kinds: pyramid of numbers, pyramid of energy, pyramid of biomass. They should all look the same for each ecosystem. So numbers is the actual number of organisms at a trophic level. Energy is how much energy is stored in each level at a trophic level, or each trophic level in an ecosystem. And biomass is how much weight. It can be dead weight, it can be grinded up in liquid, it can be living weight, some kind of mass. So that's energy, that's an example of biomass, that's an example of numbers. And these are all in the same ecosystem. Biomagnification. All right, this is kind of important, so pay attention for a second. Other stuff we've talked about a lot. This stuff is kind of new-ish. Bioaccumulation means that the higher level you go in a trophic level, the more magnified the toxicities or toxins in the environment show. So, say you have mercury in the environment. Low-level plants aren't going to get a lot of that mercury. But if you go up to the higher level, if you eat like a dolphin, for example, which is what the movie The Cove is all about, which I think I showed the first semester, but not second semester.
Yeah, we haven't seen
it. It's a good movie. You don't watch it after the exam. Basically what happens is the mercury gets amplified, bioaccumulated in the tissues of the organisms the higher you go in the trophic level. So if you eat something really high in the trophic level, like a dolphin or a person, you don't want to do that, but you're going to get more of the toxins than if you eat like a plant or a lower level. Yeah.
So basically, the closer they are to the main energy source, which is the sun. So the closer they are to that energy source, the healthier, the cleaner it is. Okay, so we should always kind of strive to get to contrast.
Yeah, but there's less energy in that level. So say you're eating spinach, you got to eat like 9 times, 10 times the amount of spinach to equal what's in the next trophic level.
But isn't the energy lost?
Yeah, that's the point. It's lost, but it's amplified. So say it's a cow eating spinach. I'm not going to eat spinach, but say it's a cow. Yes, you're going to lose 90%, but the cow doesn't eat just enough to make up 10%. It's going to eat a lot more than that. Right. So it's going to take a lot of spinach. It's not really eating spinach, it's eating grass. But it's going to have more calories in it, so it's going to have more energy than the basic trophic level. So if you're a vegetarian, you got to eat a whole lot more to get the same amount of nutrients than if you were not a vegetarian. It's basically
right, but cutting down on certain red meats is recommended by a lot of nutritionists.
Yes, that's not what we're talking about.
Right, sorry.
All right, biomagnification is increasing concentration trophic levels. So the higher you go, the more toxins you're going to get. There's an argument for being a vegetarian right there. So this is an example. It's really low, part per million of something, DDT, which is the pesticide. So there's very little down here, but the higher level you go, the more there's going to be. Ecosystems and biomes. Remember, biomes are large regions of the world. Ecosystems are more specific. So the Brazilian rainforest versus the tropical rainforest. The tropical rainforest could be in South and Central America, it could be in Africa, it could be in Asia, but if you want to talk about the specific Brazilian rainforest, then you're talking about an ecosystem. Biome would be all rainforests. So this is a generalization, this is more specific. So biome is made of many similar ecosystems. And, this is an important point. Biomes are only on land. You don't have aquatic biomes.
What?
They're called aquatic life zones.
Wait, what's the difference?
They just don't call them liquid water biomes.
Just a different name?
Yeah, they're called aquatic life zones. So the ocean biome isn't really called the ocean biome, it's called the ocean aquatic life zone. It's not that important. Here's the different biomes. We've been through these. I'm not going to go through them again. No one likes this. All right, relationship between species. Ecosystem is biotic and abiotic, how they work together. Community is all the different species of organisms. So take out the abiotic part, you got your community. Population is all the same species. A niche is the job of the species, and habitat is the area where the organism normally lives. This is all like vocab words. Competition. Yep, that's competition. That's good. There you go.
Stackhouse.
Yeah.
As in, when you say they can't occupy the same niche, what would be a good example of that?
They can't do the same job. So if you have a detritivore, like a crab, I know this is a bad example. Say you have a pig, which can eat dead things. It's an omnivore, but it's also a detritivore. And then you have a vulture, and they're competing to be the cleanuppers of the ecosystem. Only one can do that because the amount of dead things is going to run out for both of them to do that. So they both can't have the same niche or niche. They both can't have the same job for very long because the resource is going to run out.
But one of them is going to die out.
And one of them's got to change. Well, if it doesn't, it can die out. If it doesn't die out, it usually has to change its job to something else. So it does something else in the environment. So keystone species is the main species in the ecosystem. If you take that out, then the ecosystem totally changes to something different. It's not usually the most abundant. An example would be a fig tree in the tropical rainforest, or the sea otter. Yes, sea otter, or the wolf in Yellowstone. Indicator species. That's kind of a weird thing. Right now in South Florida, frogs are the indicator species. So that if there's actually people, and I was actually trained to do this, but I don't want to do it, and I don't like doing it, but people actually get paid to sit outside and count how many frogs they hear.
Wow.
Like we're trained to identify specific frog chirps.
Mr. Stackhouse.
And then you count, and each day you keep a record. And the more frogs you hear, that's the indicator species, the more healthier the environment is, or the ecosystem is. So if you don't hear any frogs, that means it's an unhealthy environment. If you hear a lot, then that means it's healthy.
What if it's just the same frog?
That's what we're trained for.
You're screwed.
Mr. Stackhouse, why usually, so that's why they're usually amphibians, because of the noise they make?
Amphibians are usually the indicator species. It's because they have thin skin, they live in water and inside, they can live in water and on land. And they absorb a lot of the nutrients through their skin. They breathe, but when they're not breathing, they can have gills. They can also breathe on land, and they can absorb nutrients through their skin. So they get a little bit of everything from both the land and the water, so they can tell what's going on.
So we do take like specific frogs and we examine them, like a scientist will do that.
No, I don't do it.
I mean, I know, but I mean,
But
scientists.
people know, they just listen for it. They listen for the number. So they'll sit down one night and say, okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, I hear 10 frogs. And then the next day they sit out and say, okay, there's only 8 frogs. And they notice the number's going down. When it's going down, that means there's something wrong with the environment. There's some kind of pollutant, or there's an excess number of particular species, or there's something wrong. It's an indicator of something's going on if there's less of it.
How many frog chirps do you know?
It's not, it's just, you listen for the rhythm of this. I don't know. All right, indigenous species are species that occur naturally where they're supposed to be. Invasive species, we have a ton of these in South Florida. Parrots are invasive species, they're not supposed to be here.
The Florida lizards, right?
Yeah. That thing over there, that's an invasive species.
Yeah.
Zebra mussels are invasive species. Actually, last year they asked me a good question on zebra mussels.
So, Mr. Stackhouse,
Yeah.
since invasive species seem to be a big, likely one, what would be another major invasive species that you could think
What's
of?
that tree that's sticking over? Carp?
There's something, something in the North Kudzu that was brought over from Japan that basically takes over everything. It's like ivy, it grows over everything, trees, rocks, everything, and it kills everything in its path. And it'll go over roads unless ours, if the car didn't drive across the road, it would grow across.
So what are they? They're plants?
It's called cuts.
The plant?
Happens a lot in Georgia and Carolinas. So there's a bunch of them.
Organism.
There's a lot.
Right.
Moving on. Secession, change of species in a community over time is primary succession. Primary is the first that grows in an area. It's usually grass. There's secondary, whatever happens after the primary gets messed up. The humans can destroy it, fire, or something like that, and secondary succession comes around. And the very first species to appear in new land, so after a volcano, or also when they consider the ice sheets melting, that would also be considered a pioneer species. So the new land is created that way. So when glaciers melt, that creates new land. And when volcanoes erupt, that creates new land. And the first thing to develop on it is a pioneer species. That's usually grass.
That's all she wrote.
Really quick to the last one. Because you look bored and I'm